All right, let's get into it. We're focusing on a remarkable subject today, a man who was, on the surface, just a working man. But he became one of the most critical guardians against a certain kind of structural, persistent evil. We are tracking the full operational lifespan of the asset known as Dick Halloran.
And his story is so compelling because the real power wasn't just the raw strength of his psychic ability, what he called the shine.
No.
The core of his effectiveness, his survival, was the psychological architecture he built. He developed defenses robust enough to withstand forces that, well, they just devoured everyone else.
Exactly. So our mission here is to trace that chronology, from the immense trauma that forged those defenses to his strategic life choices.
And finally, to the interventions.
The critical interventions, culminating in the destruction of that Colorado target. You're going to see how trauma was transformed to the ultimate protective instinct.
To really understand Halloran, you have to start at the source. The shine, it was deeply rooted in his family. His grandmother, Rose Halloran, the one he called the White Grandma, she was the original point of stability. She had the ability, and she provided that essential early guidance. She taught him what it was.
But for every light, there's a shadow. And the structural evil in his childhood was concentrated entirely in his grandfather, the Black Grandpa.
Oh, yes.
What we've observed is a truly chilling system of abuse. This wasn't just a burst of anger here and there. It was an established daily routine of mental, physical, and deeply invasive cruelty.
And it was enforced psychically. The grandfather used the known threat of Charlie Mans to maintain absolute control, to keep him silent.
For those of you who might not be familiar, Charlie Mans isn't just a story. It's an ancient entity, a boogeyman that psychics recognize as a very real, soul-stealing predator.
So to a child like Dick, who was already so sensitive, that threat wasn't a metaphor.
No.
It felt absolute, immediate. It gave the grandfather this psychological leverage that went far beyond just physical threats.
And what's so fascinating is how that constant exposure, that pressure cooker of malevolence, it actually forged his abilities.
It forced the pivot, because when the grandfather died, the attacks didn't stop.
They got worse.
They intensified. His spirit continued the assault's explicit, invasive, relentless psychic encounters. So Halloran had two choices: break or adapt.
And he adapted.
Under his grandmother's increasingly desperate guidance, he invented a defense mechanism. He learned to control the internal space of his own mind.
The locking of the doors.
That ability to lock doors in his mind, to seal off that invasive presence, that's what transformed the shine from a terrible liability into an impenetrable defense.
And if we're looking at the big picture for you, this is the key insight, that deep-seated need to survive overwhelming psychic violence. It became the root of his unwavering commitment to protecting children later in life.
He wasn't just defending them, he was defending a younger version of himself. He knew exactly what they were up against.
Now let's track his trajectory. After a separate, highly volatile intervention, he successfully extracted a young operative, Will Hanlon, from an entity in Derry. That took immense energy. It left him vulnerable.
And his next move was textbook strategic disengagement. He didn't linger.
Not at all.
It was a bus to Boston, then a train, then a flight straight to London for a cook position. That exit was absolutely necessary. We know places like Derry. They consume those who stay too long. They leave a psychic residue that tries to drag you back in.
So London wasn't just a change of scenery, it was a shield.
Precisely. It gave him crucial distance from that psychic blast radius. And the choice of profession, it tells you everything.
A working man.
He identified as a working man first, a mystic second. London offered him big city anonymity and, more importantly, the structured, mundane existence of a busy kitchen.
I think that mundane aspect is key. Imagine having the shine every emotion, every ghost, every thought echoing in your head.
It would be overwhelming.
Repetitive physical labor, the rhythm of old kitchens, long shifts. It becomes a kind of psychic filter. It's where he could process trauma without being constantly hit by new supernatural noise. He earned that anonymity.
Yet we did observe he didn't sever all ties. A contact, Leroy, continued sending him communiques from the periphery, just enough to keep him connected.
But the London stop was always temporary, we knew that. His fate, or maybe just that refined protective instinct, was pulling him inevitably toward the Overlook Hotel in Colorado.
Which brings us to the primary target.
The Overlook wasn't just a place, it was a hungry structural entity. And it shared a volatile temperament with the family it lured in.
Tactornans.
The initial target. He was seeking redemption, stability, But the hotel was just engineered to amplify his pre-existing weaknesses, his guilt, his anger, his professional bitterness.
What's so interesting here is Halloran's immediate appraisal when he met Danny Torrance. He recognized Danny as, well, potentially the most powerful person with the shine he'd ever encountered.
The connection was instant.
Instant. Halloran pulled the child aside and spoke with the clarity of shared experience, giving him the language to understand his gift.
And he laid out 2 critical initial warnings, vital for any young asset. First, the manifestations Danny sees. The ghosts, the parties, the blood. They're like photographs.
They look real. They're terrifying.
But they can't physically harm you. That creates mental distance.
And the second warning was absolute. Stay away from room 217. That room housed a concentrated malignancy, something too focused and too strong for a child to handle.
But the hotel, well, it didn't play by the rules, did it?
Not at all.
It started tightening its grip fast, exploiting Jack's weaknesses. It guided him to the hotel's dark history, the murders, the mob ties, and it used alcohol as a wedge to gain full access to his body and intentions.
And that manipulation just accelerated the moment Danny defied the warning and entered 217. The result was physical marks. Bruises left by the dead woman, Mrs. Macy.
Which broke Halloran's first rule. The hotel was proving it could hurt them physically, and that just ratcheted up the danger exponentially.
That's what led to Jack's full possession, freeing him from the pantry and setting the stage for Halloran's intervention.
He responded instantly. He heard Danny's psychic call all the way from Florida and pushed through brutal winter conditions to get back.
We observed a quick, decisive act of force the moment he arrived. He was attacked by a materialized hedge animal, a massive topiary creature the hotel animated.
And Halloran didn't hesitate.
No. He neutralized it immediately with fuel from his snowmobile and fire. He understood the need for an aggressive material response against these things.
The immediate operational failure, though, was just heartbreaking. He barely got through the door before Jack Torrance ambushed him with a croquet mallet, shattered his jaw, left him concussed.
The experienced guardian temporarily neutralized.
And the ultimate burden of survival fell squarely back onto the child.
But this is where Halloran's earlier tutelage really paid off. Danny confronted the possessed Jack and found the one truth potent enough to break the hotel's immediate control. He just said it, simply. You're not my daddy.
That separation, distinguishing the man from the malignancy.
It momentarily freed Jack, who, in this flash of lucidity, screamed at Danny to run before the hotel, forced him to strike his own face. It was the ultimate tragic expression of Jack's weakness and the hotel's consuming strength.
And from there, the destruction became unavoidable. Danny remembered the boiler, a key detail.
A mundane task. Jack had been warned to maintain the daily pressure release, and in the chaos of his possession, he'd ignored it. The pressure reached critical mass.
He rushed to the basement to save the hotel, but it was far too late. The boiler exploded, destroying the overlook and neutralizing Jack Torrance.
And Halloran, despite his severe injuries, he resisted the building's final malignant attempts to compel him to kill the survivors. He successfully extracted Wendy and Danny.
And we observed that he didn't just leave them. He spent the next summer working as a head chef in Maine, helping Wendy heal, teaching Danny simple life skills. His responsibility went beyond the immediate threat. It was about long-term recovery.
But his most lasting influence, his true legacy, was strategic, psychological. He passed on the lesson from his white grandma. He taught Danny how to use that mental lockbox to contain the bad shines.
Specifically, the lingering spirits of the Overlook.
Mrs. Macy, Horace M. Wendt, all of them.
And this wasn't just some abstract idea. He knew Danny was too young to build the mental abstraction perfectly, so he gave him a physical lockbox, a tangible object, to help the child understand the mechanism.
Containment versus repression. It's a critical difference. This survival tool was passed directly from mentor to successor.
And this preparedness proved critical years later. Halloran died in 1999, but his instruction continued. When Danny, now an adult, faced the True Knot.
A new aggressive adversary.
They were desperate to capture the psychic Abra Stone and consume her shine. Halloran answered Danny's call.
For those of you unfamiliar, the True Knot are nomadic psychics who feed off the steam, the psychic essence of those who shine. They are the ultimate predators in this space.
And Halloran guided Danny one last time from beyond the grave, using the body of Eleanor Olette as a temporary conduit to provide the tactical insight needed to win. A guardian, truly, even in death.
Halloran's life just proves that true strength isn't about the volume of your power, or even resisting every single attack. It's about establishing a consistent, reliable defense mechanism, that mental lockbox, and ensuring that defense is successfully transferred to the next generation.
We have observed the full arc of a man who took chronic structural trauma and transformed it into long-term strategic advantage and mentorship. The ultimate lesson here isn't the spectacular destruction of a target like the Overlook. It's the quiet, enduring power of knowledge transfer. So if the greatest psychological defense mechanism one generation builds is explicitly designed to be passed on to the next, what are the silent, insidious methods currently being deployed by adversaries today that we are unknowingly conditioning our own successors to neutralize? It's something for you to consider.